Hey.
You about ready?
Yeah, it's recording.
It's recording? Okay. Well, Butch, this is George Alwan with Butch Katen. We're going to do an interview about Butch's life. Now he's getting to be an old man. He's almost 60, right?
I am 60.
You are 60.
I'll be 61 in June. A couple of months.
June. And this is the 16th of April, 1994. And I have this both on tape and on video. So, Butch, tell me a little bit about what you remember when you were a young guy. You were real young. Real young.
First, now I know I'm old. We just sat at the dinner table, and Georgie made me sit at the end of the table because I was the jiddu. So now I look around and I say, you know, I am the jiddu.
Yeah.
But I'm not an old jiddu. I'm a young jiddu.
You're a young jiddu, right.
So what do I know from when I was young?
Yeah.
Well, when I was young, we lived on 79th, 171 79th Street.
Uh-huh.
And that was a house that I guess everybody in Bay Ridge at one time or other lived in.
Mm-hmm.
We had everybody living there or coming in, and every
Who do you
Sunday.
remember living there when you were real young?
Oh, my cousin Teddy,
Uh-huh.
Eleanor, there was on occasions Josephine.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a family of Abdallahs from Fall River, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
That they were in and out, and there were Bistanis, there was all kinds of people.
Everyone came, everyone knew the place.
My brother Floyd had his friends there. I'd come home and I'd fall asleep in my bed, and I woke up downstairs in the basement on a cot because Floyd's friend Frank McAleer came, and they took me downstairs because he needed a big bed. I'd wake up in the morning and look around, and you know, there was always somebody in that house.
It was a really an active house.
And
then.
every Sunday was dinner. Dinner was at 2 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
5 minutes to 2, we'd all sit down, pounding on the table. What do you want to eat? And my poor mother, at 2 o'clock, everything would be out on the table.
She did all the cooking.
She did all the cooking. And of course, your mother, your father, and all you kids,
Right.
Floyd and Florence, and all their kids,
Those are
myself
great.
and my
Those are
kids.
great.
That was later.
That was later.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back.
Young, when I was young, it was parties all the time.
Mhm.
I remember my mother and father always having company. Joe and Gloria always having company. When Joe went into the service, they had a great big party for Joe and
Mm-hmm.
and for I don't know whether it was Teddy or John Farah.
John Farah.
They had it for the two of them.
I have a videotape of that.
Yeah.
A film of John Farah.
Well, you didn't see me at the end of the party.
No, I didn't see you at the end. What happened to you at the end of the
Because
party?
during the party, they gave me quarters for every time I take a drink. And by the end of the night, I went into the pantry off the kitchen and I was sound asleep. And they spent, so I hear, a half hour looking all over for me. And they went in the pantry and there I was on the floor sound asleep. So that was my first drunk.
Your first drunk, huh?
Yeah.
That must have been a good drunk.
When Joe was going into the service.
Yeah. Let's go back a few years earlier. Where'd you go to grammar school?
I went to PS 102, I think. We all went there, I think, Joe, and my
Right.
mother, and Floyd, and myself. I went to PS 102. And when I graduated there, I went to Fort Hamilton High School.
You went to Fort Hamilton, okay.
Floyd and I both went to Fort Hamilton. Joe went to La Salle,
LaSalle.
and your mother went to Bay Ridge.
High School, right. Who took care of you when you used to go to in grammar school? Did they to walk you back and forth? Did you
No. When I was in grammar school, really, I think at that time, Tata was working part-time with Jiddu.
She used to work?
She used to go into the office when Jiddu went out on the road,
Uh-huh.
and she'd go into the office, and Joe was in there working.
Right.
In those days, you didn't even have a key to the house. You came home from PS 102, you pressed the button on the front door, and the latch opened, and you went in.
That was it?
We never locked the doors. We never, never had a problem like that. You talk about safety. I had a friend of mine, Billy Abdullah, and myself. Every night after dinner, in the beginning of the summer, before we went away, we used to get on our bikes and ride down to Coney Island along the Belt Parkway there.
God, that's a long ride.
Ride to Coney Island, go to the bobsled, leave our bike there by the booth.
Right.
Don't chain it, don't lock it. Go on the bobsled, come off, go have a frozen custard at Nathan's, get back on our bike and drive back home on Shore Road and Nobody ever bothered you. Today you did that, they'd knock you off the bike and steal the bike.
Right, all gone.
But
It's
yeah,
real
and
fast.
in Cody Island, who would ever believe in Cody Island?
Right.
You leave a bicycle
Right.
unchained and nothing, just
Right.
put it there and you went on the ride.
Right.
That's the way it was in those days.
Times certainly did change
Yeah.
since
And
then.
that's right. We'd come home and press the button in the front door and you go in the house.
Yeah.
Change your clothes, we'd go out and play, and then my mother would come home from work and start dinner. And
Who made your breakfast when you were in grammar school and before that? Do you remember? Did you do it yourselves, or did Data do it, or did you have a cleaning person or a cook there?
no, we didn't have a cook. We had a cleaning lady.
The cleaning lady. Okay.
In
Yeah,
the
Mom
beginning, when I
remembered
was
something about a cleaning
in
lady.
the beginning, we had a colored woman. Her name was Viola
Viola.
Bowles.
Right, Viola Ball.
And she was there, and she was almost like my mother. I mean, she cooked and
Uh-huh.
did a little bit of everything. I guess she
Uh-huh.
was everything. And then one day she told my mother she had to leave, and she left. She had a baby. I didn't even know she was pregnant. I wouldn't even know what pregnant was anyhow.
Right.
She went, she had a pregnant. 3 days later, she was back.
Oh wow. Was
And-
she with you guys a long time?
Yeah. And then she had a boy, and the boy's name was Rufus.
Rufus Balls.
And I wanted to play with Rufus, and if I was good, maybe once a month my mother would let Viola bring Rufus, and I used to play in the backyard with him. We
Uh-huh.
were little tots,
Uh-huh.
and I'd play with him. I mean, that was when I was good. That
Yeah,
was
that was a reward,
A
huh?
reward. Yeah.
Oh, so Viola did play a part in your life then, huh?
Yeah, she was there, and then
She used to live downstairs, is that true?
no. She went home.
She
She
went
went
home.
home every day. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't remember any of the cleaning people living down
That
the
lived.
basement?
No.
Okay, that was Mom remembers.
Maybe
some of that.
before my time.
Right.
Yeah, no, nobody lived. Then we had Mr. Anzalone, Philip Anzalone, the old Italian man, wore a hearing aid. And
Right. What
he
did
used to
he
do all the handiwork. He'd do some painting and some
Uh-huh.
scraping and
Right.
anything. And I remember Tate that used to always say, Mr. Anzalone, you're a pest. You're a real pest.
Why'd you say
And
that?
he'd go, yes, I know, Mrs. Katen, I'm the best. I'm the best. And I used to get hysterical. I thought it was a great joke. And I don't really know if he
Knew what was
knew
going
what
on.
was going on, or he was just playing along with it.
Right.
But that was one of the funnier things with Mr. Anzalone. He used to do all the painting and
Okay.
whatever, and
Okay.
cleaning and carpentry.
Uh-huh.
Nothing was professional, but it was done.
Yeah.
But it was cheap,
Yeah.
so Jiddu liked it.
Yeah.
The price was
Do you
right.
remember much about your father when you were younger? Was he around a lot, or was he?
He was traveling on the road all the time.
Mhm.
He was away a lot,
Like months, weeks, days?
weeks at a time.
Okay.
And I remember one Christmas Eve, my brother Floyd and I,
How old were you?
oh, it was the age where I was getting a wig and he was getting a bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
And we went downstairs, and when they went to midnight mass, we hid downstairs behind the couch. And my cousin Teddy at that time was living there.
Uh-huh.
And he sort of knew we were there, I guess, because he went next door to the McGinnis's and brought back coal and he put it in our stocking. But we hid behind there, and they went upstairs and everything, and sure enough, opens up the front door with my father coming home about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning,
Uh-huh.
and he saw us there with the bicycle and the wagon. He wanted to yell at us, but he couldn't yell at us because it was Christmas Eve. And he said, "Oh," so he stayed with us for a few minutes and then chased us all upstairs. We hid behind the couch when they went to midnight mass.
Which is your bedroom?
Upstairs, Floyd and I,
There's 3 bedrooms.
3
upstairs.
bedrooms.
Front
We had
was-
the middle room. There was a small room and 2
Two
single
of you in that
beds.
little bedroom?
Yeah, my brother Floyd and I were in there.
And how did Mom and Joe and you and Floyd live in those 2 bedrooms? The 3 boys in one room?
Well, yeah, in the beginning, the 3 boys were in one room, and your mother had that little
A
bedroom.
little bedroom, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I know it ended up, Floyd and I were in the middle room,
Uh-huh.
and I remember my mother used to have company all the time, and we were upstairs, and they tell me, I don't believe it's true, but they said I was a little brat, and I remember one time up there, and Floyd was in his bed, and I was in my bed, and I started yelling and screaming, "Floyd, leave me alone, leave me alone!" And my father come running upstairs, and he gave Floyd 2 good swats off the ass. And he says, now behave, and he went downstairs. When he went down, Floyd came over and he beat the shit out of him. He says, as long as I'm gonna get a beating, I'm gonna get a beating for something.
Right.
So he gave me a beating. Yeah, I was a brat, but they tell me I was a brat. I think they convinced me. I really wasn't.
You don't think
I was
so?
a good kid.
A good kid. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you remember most about your mom from way back when you were young? How was she with you guys?
Oh, my mother. She was great. I loved my mother.
Huh?
Well, I was the baby, so
Yeah.
I got
So
I got away.
You got spoiled.
I got away with murder.
Uh-huh.
I got away with
What do
murder.
you remember getting away with?
Oh, I mean, we had a poor people that lived next door, the Earls.
Oh, the Earls.
And I had Jimmy Ray that lived on the other side of the Earls. So the
Uh-huh.
Earls were between my mother, our house, and Jimmy Ray's house. And we used to always be outside playing ball, running on the lawn. And one time, my father and mother had company, and we were outside. It was me and Jimmy Ray and about 5, 6 others. And we got sticks and we put signs on them. And we picketed in front of the Earl's house. And he said, California oranges, Texas cactus, we tease the Earls just for practice. And we did that, and that's how dopey I was. We had a house full of company, and we ran away when they came out. Mr. Earl was a gem. He knew we were just kids that were growing up.
Yeah.
Mrs. Earl, she was a pain in the ass. So she rang the bell and pointed to my mother. You see what your son does, and that other Jimmy next door. And then my mother had a house full of company, so of course we got a beating and we got punished and so forth and so on.
How old were you then?
We were maybe 12.
12, 13.
Yeah, we were the age where you got, we used to play stickball in the street. The ball would go up on the lawn and we'd run right across the lawn because you had to get the ball.
Right. Right.
Get the out. It was important.
Right.
But they got very, very upset about that.
They didn't like that.
A lot of them people, they were
Yeah.
old. They were like jiddus,
Yeah, yeah.
60.
Right, right.
But and the McGinnises were just the opposite. They were very, very
They're very
friendly.
nice,
I know I used to have to shovel their snow in the winter, and was never allowed to take a penny or anything from them. But every Easter they would give me one of those batting balls with the cellophane around it,
Mhm.
candy and everything in it.
Uh-huh.
And then finally, when I got to be a big boy and I wanted my first baseball glove, my mother promised me she'd get me a glove, and Mrs. McGinnis' daughter, Regina, married the fella whose father owned the first Herman's
Mm-hmm.
sporting goods.
Sporting goods store.
So they got me a glove through there, and that was one of the top line gloves
Oh, wow.
of the industry at that time. And it was the best present I ever got in my life.
Really? Really?
Yeah. I always wanted a bicycle, but I never got it. My father would never let me have a bicycle.
Why not?
Well, Floyd got a new one, and it was stolen or something, and that took, of course, money to buy a new bike.
Right.
So I never got a bicycle until your mother married your father,
Uh-huh.
and he gave me his bicycle.
Oh,
It
wow.
was a red bicycle, but he gave it to me under one condition. It used to have a speedometer on the front bar,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't do anything with that because he took out the speedometer and he put a picture of my sister there. So I had to ride around on a bicycle with my sister's picture. So if I wanted a bike,
And you were 10, 12 years old?
maybe I was 14 by now
14, yeah,
before I got my first bike, and I had my sister's picture there. But, I had to promise your father I'd have to leave the picture there, otherwise he could take the bike back.
Oh, that's great.
So,
That's great.
Yeah, so I had that bike for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you remember about your brother Joe?
Well, I remember Joe. Joe was 9 years older than me,
Right.
but Joe went into the Air Force at 18 and a half.
Yeah.
So, and then just before he got shipped overseas, he got married.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So you don't really remember.
he
a lot.
was 18, I was only 9,
Right.
something like that.
Was he around much? I understand he was a salesman.
Well,
Was he-
then when he came back from the service,
No, before that, when he was in high school. Do you
yeah,
remember
he
much
used
about
to
him?
he used to sell. Even then, he used to work with my father and sell
Uh-huh.
linens and everything
Uh-huh.
while he was in school. He
Yeah.
was a go-getter.
He was go-getter from...
But Joe, really, I didn't know as much as Floyd.
Yeah.
Floyd was only 5 years older than I was, and
Uh-huh.
Floyd, when my mother was out, either working or they were out socializing, he had a babysit for me. So I used to always be with Floyd, even at night. I remember I went on his first date. He took a girl that lived on 80th Street. She was a twin, and he took her to the movie, and I tagged along. I had to sit with them in the movie because there was nothing I could do. He was babysitting.
Right.
So
right.
he took me along on his date.
Gosh.
Yeah, but I was a good little kid. I didn't look or no
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I
just
paid
look
no
the other way,
attention.
huh?
Yeah, I watched the movie. Yeah.
Isn't that nice of you? Speaking of dating, was Peggy one of your first dates?
Well, I met Peggy, I guess it was her 16th birthday party. I met her the week before. A whole bunch of us went to Coney Island.
Uh-huh.
And I used to like her girlfriend a little bit.
Who was that?
I don't know, some redheaded girl she had, redheaded girlfriend. Eileen, I think. And a friend of mine liked Peggy, but when we went out to Coney Island, for some reason, he went on the ride with a girlfriend, and I went on the bobsled with her.
Uh-huh.
And I guess I liked her.
Uh-huh.
She liked me. And she had a birthday party the following week, sweet 16 birthday party.
Uh-huh.
And from then we've been going together ever since.
Really? Is she your first date then, or were you dating before that?
Oh, I went out with girls, but really not where we went out, on a date to a movie or something.
Uh-huh.
We went to spin the bottle at parties and
Right.
stuff like that. Not
What do you remember about
dates.
dating with Peggy then, or early on?
Well, then after that, we started going to the movies.
Mhm.
And,
What were your favorite places?
favorite place was a pizzeria. At
Uh-huh.
that time, it was the original Gino's, but it was on 75th Street, right up off of 5th.
Off of Fifth.
Near where those, I think there maybe is a funeral parlor on the corner now and something else, and they just had a little store on the side,
Uh-huh.
and we went there, and we used to go for pizza. Well, Peggy and I, and 6
Uh-huh.
or 7 other friends.
Right, that's what you
In a
should
group.
date,
That's how
right.
we used to date, by groups.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going steady from her 16th birthday on. I
Wow.
never went out with anyone else after that.
Wow. So when did you marry? How old was she when she married?
After I went to the Army. I went to the Army in 54,
Uh-huh.
but we got engaged just before I went in the Army in February 1954. And we got married when I got out of the Army in April 56.
Okay.
So we were engaged for a little over 2 years.
And how long were you dating before that?
From her 16th birthday.
And how old? So how
So
old?
that was, we got married. We got married in 56. I was 23.
Uh-huh.
So I was 17 when I met her. So 17, I got married at 23.
So 6 years you were dating before
Yeah,
you got
before
married.
we got married.
Long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, 6 years.
Well, we were young.
Yeah, right.
Hey, like Joe and Gladys got married at 18, 19. Your mother and father got married at 18 and 19.
Right.
I think Floyd was 22 or something when he got married, and I was
Right.
23. I was the old timer.
You were the old time, huh?
Yeah, well, as you got older, you got smarter, so you waited a little longer. No.
Yeah. Did you guys go, you didn't go on trips or anything together before you got married, did you?
No.
Wasn't-
No. Oh, yeah, we
You
did.
I thought-
Right. While I was in the Army, we took a week's vacation and we went down to Florida to stay with Uncle Joe and Aunt Gladys.
And you weren't married?
Weren't married, but we were in 2 separate rooms. 2 separate rooms. I slept with Paul,
Uh-huh.
and Peggy slept with Marie
Uh-huh.
in the room. Lisa wasn't born yet.
Uh-huh.
Oh, man. Yeah, we were down to Florida.
I guess back then you wouldn't even have thought of anything like that. Or did you think about it?
No, I think my mother would have killed me and her mother would have killed me.
Both,
Yeah,
right, right.
yeah. No, but we were engaged.
Yeah.
I was in the Army, and I came home. I took a week's vacation, a leave,
Uh-huh.
and we went down to Florida, Delray, and we stayed there for a
Okay.
week.
Where'd you go on your honeymoon?
We went to Miami.
Uh-huh.
We went to Miami. We stayed there. We were supposed to stay down there for 2 weeks. We stayed in the hotel a week,
How'd you get there? Drive? Did you fly?
No, we flew.
Okay.
and then Uncle John and Aunt Isabel picked us up at the hotel,
Okay. Really? All
and we
right.
went. We stayed with them
Uh-huh.
for about 3 days.
So you must have had a wonderful honeymoon.
Honeymoon. Yeah, then from there we went to Joe's for the other 4 days. Yeah, so we had 1 week as honeymooners
Right.
and 1 week as being chaperoned by my aunt and uncle and my brother and sister-in-law.
Do you remember anything from your honeymoon? The first week?
Oh yeah, I remember the first, we got there, we got married, and we spent our first night at the Hotel St. George.
Uh-huh.
And when that was
In
Saturday.
Brooklyn or
In Brooklyn.
Okay.
It was Saturday. We got married on a Saturday. We spent Saturday night at the Hotel St. George, and then we flew out of, well, it wasn't Kennedy at that time. It was Idlewild?
Idlewild, yeah.
Idlewild. We flew out of there and went to Florida. Then we got to Florida Sunday. Monday morning we woke up and we went downstairs and we stayed at the Delano Hotel, which was at the time, it was like kosher, a very kosher hotel.
Mm-hmm.
But one of our customers in the clothing business was a part owner.
Uh-huh.
And my father made the reservations down in the hotel for us. And they treated us very, very nice down there, but evidently they thought I was Jewish.
With the nose, right.
Yeah. And when we went down for breakfast, Peggy got sausages and eggs and everything, and I got...
Ham and egg?
No, I didn't get... I got a kosher meal. I didn't get any meat with eggs. Or coffee. They brought me the non-dairy for my coffee or whatever it was. And Peggy asked for milk, and they gave her milk.
Because they
didn't
knew
give
she
it to me.
wasn't Jewish.
Yeah,
Right?
But then I finally told the waiter, I said, hey, I'm not Jewish, I want to eat anything I can eat. You know, so he said, oh, well, okay, Mr. Katen. So I guess even with the name Katen.
Right. C-A-T-O-N or something like that. Right. So what else did you do on your honeymoon?
When we were with Aunt Isabel and Uncle John, they took us to the racetrack.
Uh-huh.
And of course, at that time, we didn't have that much money. We'd spend $2 on a race each. And Peggy kept coming back with winners. She had, like, at the end of the day, maybe $60. She was the winner. And Uncle John had 4 sheets in a newspaper and a magazine. He was trying to tout all these races. And I says, what are you doing? How are you picking these? He says, I pick all the Irish jockeys or the Irish trainers. So we cursed at her in Arabic. And that's how she did it. She ended up winning about $62. He lost, I don't know, God knows how much he lost. But she picked all the horses by picking the Irish jockeys or an Irish trainer.
Yeah. What do you remember about your Aunt Isabel?
Well, my Aunt Isabel, getting back to the bicycle, she promised me if I ever stopped biting my nails, and to this day I still bite my nails, she would buy me a bicycle. So, P.S. I never did get a bicycle. But Aunt Isabel, I remember...
Was she a warm person, a cold person?
She was the old, finicky old... If she wasn't married, you see, she was a finicky
polite.
old spinster. If she wasn't married.
Right.
I mean, and always had a large bottle of Listerine. If somebody shook her hand or kissed her, she ran into the bathroom, washed her hands with Listerine,
really?
and wiped her face with the Listerine. Oh yeah, Aunt Isabel was funny. She always had gum, so I used to like it. I used to always get gum from Aunt Isabel.
What kind of gum do you remember? Which is
Beech nut.
beech nut.
And in fact, Aunt Isabel, we went to see up in Binghamton, New York. That's where they lived originally
You were up there
for
in the
a
house
while.
in Binghamton, huh?
And when we went up there, Uncle
John?
Uncle John was he was a salesman of some kind
Yeah,
also,
right,
sold
right.
linens, tablecloths or something. And he was taking a trip, and I really liked Uncle John. A lot of the people thought he was, rough and everything, but I liked him. He took me for the ride with him and Aunt Isabel, and we went to a place called Kanajahari in New York up there, and that was the beech nut company. And I went in there, and they took you on a tour. And because I was a child, they made you sign a guest list. And from that guest list, every 6 months, they sent you 5 boxes of gum with 100 sticks in each box.
Oh my God.
But you were supposed to give them out to your friends as advertisement, I guess. So I used to give out maybe 1 box, and the rest we kept in the family, and we all ate it. But I used to take 1 box to school and give it out. PS 102.
So you wouldn't sell it? You guys
didn't sell it.
They gave it away to your friends.
Yeah, you're supposed to give it away to advertise beech nut.
Right.
And they did that maybe, I guess, for about 4 or 5 years, sending me that gum. And,
so you were young when you went to visit them
Oh yeah, I was in grade school.
Back to the grade school then, away from your honeymoon. Did your family go on vacations when you were young?
Yeah, we always went away. We always went away.
We being everybody?
The whole family.
Okay.
Yeah. In the beginning, I remember going up to Tannersville.
You were telling me the other night you weren't excited about Tannersville because
No,
you go.
Tannersville was really a nothing. You went up to the Syrian Hotel, owned by Uncle Bahij and
What's the
and
guy's
Husni.
Husni.
Husni was a great big man with a big belly, but the nicest man in the world. He used to give you, before I go to bed every night, I used to go in there and get a bowl of fruit from him, cherries or nectarines and peaches. If he was there, I got one peach and a couple of cherries. If Husni was there, I got a bowl full. And you go upstairs to the room, and that was your excitement. They had an old goat that they had tied to a stake in the back of the hotel, and had him on a long rope or chain, and he just ate the grass. I guess so they wouldn't have to mow the grass.
Right.
They had this goat, and really I used to go up there with Audrey used to be there, and a few of the others.
Who else? You remember?
Oh, my brother Floyd. Your mother was there, and she used to babysit for Ronnie Halloran.
Ronnie Halloran, right? Okay.
She used to babysit up there for Ronnie Halloran, and because his mother worked and father was in the service,
Right.
and she used to come up maybe on weekends once in a while. But Ronnie was there.
Who else would you remember being there?
Oh, the Marys from Brooklyn. Oh,
Any other relatives?
the relatives? Oh, Philip was up there.
Philip.
All the old Syrian people used to play cards. And I remember in the hallway there on the main floor, it was an old hotel, it used to have a slot machine.
Huh.
And, you know, I really didn't, at that age, a slot machine didn't mean nothing.
One
to
that
me.
you actually can
A
make money
one-on
out?
bandit, yeah.
Did Mom ever play that? My mom?
Your mother? I don't know, but she made up for it now.
That's what I'm
Maybe
wondering.
that's how, she might have, because she probably had a couple of dollars or something. I think they were nickels. So she probably did, I guess. I don't know, because she was babysitting like for Ronnie.
Right.
And I remember Eleanor up there, Eleanor Caron. And then from there, we started going, I think, to Milford, Pennsylvania.
Did you go swimming there at all, or did you?
Yeah, we went swimming, but if you went swimming, you had to go to the reservoir.
It was cold.
And, yeah, and it was very, very cold. It was not really a great place for swimming.
Right.
There was really nothing up there. Even to this day, if you can't go to a hotel that has a pool,
Right.
there's no swimming up there. There's nothing
That's good. I'm going to put the light on.
Okay.
So then you went to Milford from there?
Then we started going to Milford, Pennsylvania. There was a house there that we rented for I don't know how many years, maybe 3 years in a row.
Now who's we? Badir?
My mother, my father,
Right.
and Floyd, and me, the whole family.
I remember a little bit of Milford.
It was on Sauk Hill River.
Uh-huh.
Right across the road was Sauk Hill River, and there was a woman we rented from, Effie was her name, Effie Sutters or something. She was a blind woman. And we rented her house, and she had a little cottage next to it. I guess she lived in the house that we rented in the winter, and in the summer she rented it out and stayed in the cottage, because I don't think the cottage had heater or anything. This place had a nice box out on the porch, a refrigerator inside, a stove inside, and then one of those wood-burning stoves inside. Where I'm talking about the stoves where you cook.
Yeah.
You put wood in them, and the things where you put the metal thing, you took it off, took off the centerpiece if you wanted a little fire to come through, you took off a wider piece if you wanted more fire to come through onto the pot.
How old were you when you went to Milford then?
Milford? Oh, grammar school.
Grammar school.
Grammar school.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Cannonsville, you were real young.
Real young, then Milford, and then from Milford we went to Sacandaga,
Okay.
and at Sacandaga,
Was that when Nick was up there?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and Auntie Yvonne, and I remember I got involved in the Little League up there, and the Little League played in across the bridge in Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis, I think was the name of town.
In Sacandaga? Norfolk.
Yeah. Northville.
Right.
Northville. Yeah, Metamorphosis was in Milford.
In Milford, okay.
Yeah. Northville, we played up there, and Auntie Yvonne used to drive me at that time. Auntie Yvonne was driving. She was just starting with her arthritis, and she used to drive me up there. And then they used to have, once a year, the circus came. And one of the fellows I met in Little League, his father was the chief of the police or something, and he got us involved with the circus, so we'd go and we worked with the circus. We pulled the horses. They had a parade in the
You
town.
worked at the circus in
Well,
Sacandaga?
yeah, when they had the parade, you'd march through the main street and you just held the rein of the horse while you walked through the beginning of the parade with people sitting on it, clowns and everything. And I don't know, they gave you $1 or whatever, they gave you a free ticket to the
Always
circus.
cheap labor, huh? Good
Yeah.
cheap labor, right.
And you got a free ticket to the circus. And that was Sacandaga. That was good. And that water was cold.
Now, where did you stay in Sacandaga? Where did they stay? They weren't up at the house where they
In Sacandaga Park.
It's in the park itself.
In the
okay.
park. They rented a house.
That must have been a long ride to get up there.
Oh, it was. It was terrible. And I think at that time they didn't even have the throughway.
Right, right.
And you used to go up there and have flats. You'd have one during the war. You had flats because you had retreads on the tires.
On Route 9, huh?
17 and then maybe into 9. I don't know.
Maybe 17.
And I remember we were there, and I remember your poor father coming up in the truck. We used to go up in the truck. I know one time coming up in the truck, he had Eleanor in the truck, and the truck flipped over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What happened?
And I don't know what happened. Somebody cut him off. He swerved, and they had the heavy weight in the truck, and it swayed and it pulled the truck over. So when he came up, we spent the whole weekend. I know me and your grandfather Nick and your father and my brother Floyd, I think at the time, fixing up his truck and putting all the nuts and the bolts and everything back in where it belonged.
Wow, Eleanor must have been scared with that one, huh?
Yeah. Eleanor came up and was coming up in the truck with him. Yeah. What else? When I was very young, during the war, I used to go with my cousin Teddy Caron, up to Gardner, Massachusetts.
What's there?
There was the Rayhams and a few other Syrian families, the Haddads, and he, I think, had a girlfriend up there or something. And I remember I used to go up there a lot with him. I must have went up maybe every other weekend. And he had an old car with retreads on it, and would have maybe 3 flats on the way up. And you'd have to.
Hang on a sec.
They'd have to turn in that old retread and get another retread to make the trip.
Right.
It was Henry Haddad. He married a girl from up there, and Teddy was going with one, and there was the Albert Graham, Albert and Nancy, and Alfred. They had one had a machine shop, and the other one had a factory where he made babies' high chairs. And we used to go in there and spend a lot of time roaming around there, and they lived upstairs above a grocery store. But they had upstairs, and everybody lived in this one big apartment. It was maybe like what people would think as an apartment, 6-room apartment.
Right.
These were probably 4 6-room apartments. And they were all opened into each other, and we all lived there.
Just Arabs? This summertime, summer place?
No. They lived there all year long.
I see.
They lived there all year long.
Yeah.
And my mother and father used to go up there too,
really?
on certain times, maybe once a summer or something.
Yeah.
But I used to go up there. It was almost like a vacation
Gosh.
in the winter and summer.
Yeah. This is where in Massachusetts?
Gardner.
Gardner. Okay. Let me go back. I forgot. I wanted to ask you what you remember about your grandmother, Nabia. I know you said you were going over there on Sunday.
Very little. We used to go there on Sunday. My father would take me. He'd drop my mother off at church. And then we'd go to my grandmother. And at one time, I know my grandmother lived with Philip on 86th Street somewhere, in Ridge and 3rd or somewhere. And then she lived on one of the upper avenues somewhere with somebody. I don't know whether that was also with Philip or with Auntie Bahija. But we used to go there on Sunday while my mother was in church, and I know it would be early before they would have their dinner, and she'd be cooking all the time. And she'd make the kiftas, the Syrian hamburgers, and I'd get one of them, and she'd always give me like a quarter. And
so was she warm to you at all, or friendly to you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I heard that she liked the men better than the women.
Well, I think all the Syrian people did.
Did that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I used to hear, and I used to see it with some of the old Syrian people when I lived in the apartment. He'd walk towards his car, Mr. Offaly, and his wife would be 10, 15 feet behind him, trudging, and he'd get the car, go in on the driver's side, start up the car. He wouldn't even walk around, open up the door for her, and she always followed him.
Right.
And that's how the Syrian people was.
Yeah.
Men were.
Did Ginger treat Data that way? Do you remember?
I don't. No, I don't think so. I don't think my mother would put up for it. My mother was very, very Americanized. She was. I don't know. She's not like I see today of the old Syrian people that I saw then. That they were.
When you say Americanized, you mean that
she wore American clothes. She didn't wear the old black dresses and the black stockings. And, you know, like the old Italian people did,
right.
the old Syrian people did. They were in mourning for 20 years when somebody in the family died. My mother she smoked a cigarette once in a while. You saw her smoking a cigarette.
So she was rather independent.
She drove the car. I mean, she was very, very independent.
Okay.
I remember my mother as a little kid taking us to Reese Park in the car, with a rumble seat. Yeah, my mother was very, very independent. Drove all over.
And Medea didn't mind that.
Well, he was always on the road, so she had to be independent.
To do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that may have increased if it's few around.
Yeah.
She may have had to play a totally different role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't around. I think in those days, most of the men, the Syrian men, weren't around. They always had jobs that were either 12, 14 hours, or they were out on the road. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But she more so than all of her other friends that I remember.
Okay. Okay. You don't remember her mother, Rose O'Jala?
No. I think she died before.
She probably did die before.
Yeah.
Right.
The only ones I knew in her family were Teddy and
Did you know
John
Vicky
O'Jala.
and Vicky?
And Vicky,
Yeah.
and Isabel and Vicky, and all Aunt Vicky's children.
What do you know about Aunt Vicky? I hear wild stories about her.
Well, I don't know. I guess I was too young really to know what the wild story. But all I know was she had, you know, John and Claire and Gladys, and, you know, the mom, and they were around a lot. You know, they were always in and out of the house at one time or other.
Right.
And then John O'Jala, who was from out west. I used to call him he was from Wichita, Kansas.
You remember John O'Jala?
Oh, I remember John O'Jala.
What do you remember about John O'Jala?
I remember John O'Jala when he came into New York one time. It was when we had one of our biggest storms, hurricanes ever. And right in front of the Abdullah's house, a tree went down and the limb was hanging out. We were all on it, bouncing up on horses. And when I came by, I remember yelling to him, "Hey, Cousin John, I'm on a horse like you. You're a cowboy, and I'm a cowboy," and jumping up and down. John O'Jala.
How old were you?
Oh, at that time, very young, in grammar school. But then I remember, I think you were with us when we went to Hot Springs, Arkansas. From there, we went up to Kansas to see John O'Jala and Wade O'Jala, his brother. You were with us, but you were I was maybe 12, and you were. Well,
so I was there when.
No, I was in high school. I was probably 15, and you were probably 5.
Right, I remember a little bit of the trip to Hot Springs.
And we went to Hot Springs, and from Hot Springs we went up to Kansas. We went through Kansas, and we went up to see them. John O'Jala and Wade, his brother.
Did you remember any of the kids, any of the O'Jalas at all?
No. I remember the one he was married, and they had a coffee shop.
Right. You know, I don't think John is his real name. He was named, from what I understand, after an Iceman in Data Katen's house. His name was John, and he had a different name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he ended up being called John after Data Katen's Iceman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's.
I don't know. Is he still alive?
No, I looked up the O'Jalas in Kansas, and finally called a couple and found somebody, and she said she had vague recollections of somebody named Butch Katen. You know, yeah, all right, that's the connection. And her father, I think, or grandfather, was John O'Jala. And she was the one who told me about John being named after O'Jala's Iceman.
Oh.
Yeah.
You were with us.
Okay.
When we went there.
I remember that trip.
And then
that was
back.
a great trip, Butch.
Yeah, and then coming back, we came back the Northways through St. Louis, and all of Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Right.
You know,
I don't remember.
through the mountains. Well, the first time I went to a hole in a mountain, it was the mountain.
Wow.
The highway going through the mountains. But that was our trip. Yeah, I was in my first year of high school.
Yeah.
So I had to be maybe 14
What do you remember about me during that trip? I remember being a little bit of a pest.
We used to fight, yeah.
Right,
But
okay.
we used to eat chicken in the basket all the time.
Chicken in the
Chicken
basket.
in the basket.
Yeah, right,
Chicken in the basket.
Right. And chicken in the basket.
It's like, I want chicken in the basket. Yeah. And I
Okay.
remember at one point we went into some place there, and for breakfast I wanted orange juice, and they gave me a glass of orange soda.
Yeah.
And that's not orange juice. I said, no, it's not. It's soda. And they said, well, this is what we call orange juice.
Wow. Did we go to Hendersonville together too?
Hendersonville? Where? North
North
Carolina?
Carolina to see Joe on the way to Hot Springs?
No, Joe was in Hot Springs.
I know. I thought we stopped off in Hendersonville for some reason.
No.
'Cause I remember being.
Joe was working in the auction galleries in Hot Springs for,
Okay.
I think, Ely Mattar or somebody. Was his name.
Well, I remember
And-
going to a water fountain.
Actually, we went there to see Paul. Paul was born. We went there in January, and Paul was just born between Christmas and January or
Uh-huh.
something. And that's when we first saw Paul.
Okay.
And when we got there, Red was there, Gladys' sister.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you remember any instant? I remember one where I was drinking in a water fountain, and I was told not to, if it was blacks only, or only for colored people, and I shouldn't drink from that. Do you remember?
I think that might have been in Florida. I know they had them in Florida.
Okay. I remember one either Hendersonville, North Carolina, or
Was it in Delray Beach, maybe?
Yeah.
Or Boynton, when he lived in Boynton Beach, Florida?
No, it was on the trip that we went.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I thought it was in the mountains, but I could
No,
be wrong.
that, I don't remember that.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember you were with us on that trip.
Yeah. And who else was with us?
My mother, my father, you and I.
Those
Just
just
the four of us. And we went, and Mrs. Forsley came back with us.
Uh huh.
She was there. Mrs. Forsley and Red was there.
Uh huh.
And also came when we were there was Gladys's girlfriend, lives in Bay Ridge now. Oh, what the heck's her name? I see her in St. Anselm's all the time. Oh, your mother would know her name. She was Gladys's best friend.
Uh huh.
She was also there.
Uh huh.
She's married to Freddie, somebody.
Don't know. Let me swing over to other relatives in Brooklyn. Do you remember much about Emil or Philip or Behija?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, were they around the family much when you were young?
No, some reason the one that was around the most was Niazi and Vicky.
Uh huh.
But when Niazi was in the army, they lived down in her parents' house on Pacific Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having to go down there every Sunday morning with my brother Joe to pick them up and bring them up for dinner.
Uh huh.
And they came every Sunday for dinner. My wife's checking me out, seeing if I'm giving any of the family secrets away. We went to our honeymoon already, hon.
Yes, we heard all about it.
Yeah, and Niazi was away in the army.
By the way, his wife doesn't want to be seen on video. That's why she's not part of this.
Oh, my
Peggy, yeah, you're right. Right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Vicky was there with Bobby, and
Uh-huh.
Bobby was a little infant then. I don't even know if Larry was born yet.
Uh-huh.
They were there all the time.
Uh-huh.
And then,
But so you didn't get to see the others too much.
no, they weren't that friendly, I don't think. It's,
How about Camel Side? Did you go to Jersey?
We used to go to Jersey and see them, and
You don't have any?
I really don't remember that as much as, I guess, Joe and Gladys.
Right,
Maybe Floyd, like all the Gorabs and the...
right.
I mean, I remember going there, but I was just a little guy at the time.
So nothing latched on. Do you remember anything about Atlantic Avenue? Did you used to go to Atlantic Avenue?
We used to go down to Atlantic Avenue to go shopping. I remember going with, down there with Josephine, Eleanor's sister Josephine, and sometimes Evelyn.
Uh-huh.
Well, Evelyn, I don't know if you ever met her.
Oh,
you
yeah.
remember Evelyn.
Yeah.
Evelyn was the one that was sick with
Yeah.
Parkinson's
Parkinson's
disease.
disease, right.
We used
I
to,
used to go
get down
visit her.
there on a bus.
Uh-huh.
And we used to go downtown and buy cheeses and stuff and come back by the bus.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we maybe were going to see her out in Huntington. or
Pilgrim. She was at
Pilgrim.
Pilgrim State.
Pilgrim State, right.
That's where I think she died out
Yeah.
there, I think.
Yeah, I remember going out there.
Yeah,
to
we
see
used to
her.
go out there and see.
Yeah. Let me switch topics again. When you were growing up, did you guys go to church or part of any church at all?
Well, we were all brought up Catholic, I
But-
guess, because
but-
my father was on the
What-
road.
Yeah,
My
right.
father was Protestant, my mother was Catholic,
Was she Catholic
And-
because she was Protestant, or was she Protestant?
No,
because she
no,
was
my
Catholic?
mother was Catholic when she was in Egypt. She was
Okay.
brought up in the.
Oh, really? Uh-huh.
Yeah, they went to. She went to school where they called it in the convents there,
Mhm.
and they had French teachers. Anything my mother had to do with religion,
Mhm.
she did in French. She prayed in French.
Oh, really?
Her prayer book was in French. Everything she did pertaining to religion was in French. She used to go down to St. Francis in Manhattan for confession because they had, French priests and Italian priests and whatever.
Mhm.
And everything all her prayers were in French. And but we were, like my father said, I was a Catholic by accident. He used to always say that you're only a Catholic by accident.
Because she wasn't
This is
around.
after I was grown up and I was very active in the Catholic Church. And then I wasn't afraid to say I was a Catholic.
Right,
He used to always say to me, just remember, you're only a Catholic by accident. But I remember making my first Holy Communion. Oh, my Eleanor snuck me out of the house
Uh-huh.
and took me to OLA because I went to PS 102 when you went to release time in
Yeah.
OLA. So I was making my first Holy Communion in OLA. And my mother had to stay home till my father got off and went to work. But I had to go to that Mass earlier. And Eleanor took me. She took a day off from work and she took me to the Mass. And then when my father went to work, my mother came up and met us at the church.
Oh, really? Did you know what was going on?
And I knew my father didn't have anything to do with us in religion, but I didn't know they had to sneak me to it. And my mother used to give me money to go to church on Sunday, and my father used to give me money to go to Union Church on Sunday. And I used to steal the money from both collections and not go to either one.
Really? Really?
Yeah, I was all screwed up. Yeah. But we made all our sacraments. We made First Holy Communion, the confirmation, and everything, because my mother snuck us off to it, probably because my father wasn't home.
Right.
If my father was home, I probably would have been
Protestant
Protestant, I guess. I don't know.
All right,
Yeah.
so what's more a question of which church rather than belief a lot in the church?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about politics? You remember anything about politics?
The only politics I got involved in were with you.
Was that really? So none before that, huh?
No,
Yeah.
no. We were all brought up Republicans, I guess. The House was a
Right.
Republican House, and that's all we spoke about was whoever my father wanted to speak about.
Uh-huh. He was a real strong, domineering guy, wasn't he? When you were-
Oh yeah, he was the
Were you
law
guys-
and the order.
Were you afraid of him, or did you respect him? Or?
I respected him, but I really wasn't ever afraid of him because my father, to this day, never ever hit me.
Uh-huh.
I never remember my father hitting me.
Uh-huh.
Maybe he should have, my brothers would say, but he never hit me.
So
I remember my mother used to swing at me all the time, and she used to chase me around the dining room table, and she'd take one shoe and throw it, I'd go, strike one, and I'd keep running away till I got her to laugh.
You're
Then when she
wise
laughed,
ass, huh?
yeah. But once I got her to laugh, then I'd let her catch me, because I knew then she'd calm down and she wouldn't beat me. Yeah.
All right,
So-
so a wise guy then.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So then when you see little Christopher running around here doing that, you
Yeah,
got
that's
to
me.
think that's
yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
So it's in
when
your
I
genes.
see my son Jimmy's Lauren doing what she's doing, I look and I say, that's Patty.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she looks like Patty, her expressions are like Patty, and she acts like Patty.
Yeah.
I says, that should be Patty's kid. Yeah, and I'm sure
Yeah,
it goes right down the line. That's what life is.
Right, from the Via, Los Angeles, rebelliousness, the Deer's independence.
Oh yeah.
It's all come on-
He
comes
was,
on
my
down.
father was, what he said was the law.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember, I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I was ever going to be able to go to a movie at night. I was going to go, it was me, Jimmy Ray, and Billy Abdullah.
Uh-huh.
And we looked forward to this for months, not months, but a whole week, to go to the movie. And it was a Saturday night. And that day, your mother eloped with George Alwan.
Oh.
And my mother and my father were furious. And I said, you're not going, you go upstairs, you go to bed. I didn't go to the movie. Billy Abdullah, Jimmy Ray, and them went to the movie.
You got punished.
I wasn't
because
allowed to go because maybe I figured I'd meet a woman at the movie and I was going to run away. But They eloped. I didn't even know what elope was,
Right.
and I really didn't give a damn what it was. I couldn't go to the movie. So that was one strike against your father.
From the beginning, yeah. You got punished for that.
I got punished because they eloped.
Uh,
I couldn't go to the movie.
oh.
Yeah. But then I think about 3 months later, I said, we're going to the movie, and my mother let me go to the movie.
That much longer.
Well, you couldn't go. We had to raise money to go to the movie. They wouldn't give us anything.
Really?
Yeah, we raised our own money most of the time. We
Mhm.
shoveled snow.
So your pop had money, Jude had money,
Yeah.
but he didn't give it out. Didn't give you guys
He
money.
didn't, no, he was no
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah.
I
What about
remember-
clothes and stuff? You ever buy your own clothes?
No. Clothes, we got clothes.
But you didn't
But
get
I
them
mean-
washed every day like today. Or,
Oh, no, I don't know if anybody did it
Yeah.
in those days.
yeah.
I remember selling magazines up at the Subway. Saturday Evening Post.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Saturday Evening Post at the Subway. We used to sell magazines. And then we used to deliver newspapers, the Brooklyn Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how we raised our money, and shoveling snow in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And to buy all our Christmas presents, it was on Thanksgiving. You went around begging during Thanksgiving. The kids go around now on Halloween.
Right.
When I was a kid, it wasn't Halloween. You just did bad things. And,
Yeah.
you know, you just fun things, but bad. But Thanksgiving, you went around. You dress up like a girl or blackface or
Mm-hmm.
in costumes or whatever, and you go around and got anything for Thanksgiving, and you collect your money, and that paid for your Christmas presents.
Oh, I see.
And then you pray for a snowstorm, so you didn't have enough.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You didn't have any lawns to take care of.
Huh?
You didn't have any lawns that you could mow.
No,
So you just
no.
had to do
Well, that was work anyhow.
yeah.
No, I don't think anybody cut lawns, hired people to cut their lawns
Yeah.
then. I don't know.
Yeah. So after growing up, you started working. Did you start working with Nick Badia right away?
Yeah, I started working in the quilting business as soon as I got out of high school. In
Uh-huh.
fact, even when I was in high school, I used to go there for a while on weekends and everything. It was after school for a while. But then I worked there full time in '51 when I graduated from high school, and then I went to the Army in '54. So in '54 I left,
Mm-hmm.
came back after the Army, and continued working there.
Mm-hmm. Until they closed it. When did they close it?
We closed it up in 1976.
And then after that?
After that, I went, Floyd and I went to work for Al Mizzer
Uh-huh.
in Oriental Quilting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he called us up. I knew Al. He didn't know Floyd. He spoke to me. And he says, come on. He says, what the hell do you know about any other kind of business? Because at that time, we just came back from a reunion, I think, out
Down here?
in at the Grove Park
Good
Inn.
Park Inn.
And we were talking with Joe's friend, Jack.
Uh-huh.
And he was trying to talk us into going into a restaurant business, like a red coach or whatever they had, where everything was pre-measured and everything, and he took us on a tour of one that he was a partner in. And he says to do this, so we were contemplating on that. We were working, Floyd and I, we discussed it, we thought maybe it's a good idea, and when we got back to work, a couple of days later, Al Mizzer called me, he says, hey, I want to meet with you and your brother.
Mm-hmm.
So we went down to the Son of the Sheik and had dinner with him, and his brother Eddie, and Louie. You know Louie, 2-Eye Louie, now he's partners with Bobby.
Right.
He was a partner with Al Mizzer.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And we went there, and he says, what the hell do you know about the restaurant business, this, that, and the other thing? Come with me. You guys had a good business. You know what you're doing. So we went there. And we stayed with him for about, I guess, close to 5 years.
Uh-huh.
And then he was moving down to Walhalla, South Carolina. I
Uh-huh.
said, oh, bullshit.
Yeah.
We ain't leaving. You know, which may not have been a bad thing to do.
Right.
So after that, I went to a quilter out in Long Island City,
Mm-hmm.
Quality Wool, a Jewish fella, and Floyd went with Tony Lutfi
Mm-hmm.
in the quilting business there on 47th, right down from the block from where we had our own business.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed with this fella out in Long Island City for 2 years, and then he went under. And then I worked for another fellow who was a customer of his in Brooklyn,
Mm-hmm.
Guild Mills.
Coffee time.
All right. We'll wrap this up.
And I stayed there for about 2 years, and they were having financial problems. FBI was after him,
Oh, gee.
and he was leaving the plant, and I'd have to answer all the phones, and agents coming to the place, and I said, "The hell with this! I'm out of here."
Mm-hmm.
And I left. I didn't want to get involved with whatever he was doing. He was in some kind of business before that, in gold or something, and the government was after him. So I left, and the guy that was the mechanic, Red, old Jewish fella, he left. The both of us left, and I went to Goldman Sachs, which was probably the best thing I ever did.
Right.
It gave me a pension. It gave me a health plan.
Right.
Gave me a vacation. I'm here.
You should have done that 30 years ago.
That's right. And so I did that. Peggy got me a job there. She knew the guy that was the head of security, and he interviewed me, and I went there and I got the job.
You've been doing security there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
And it was great. I didn't think they paid people to do things like this.
Yeah.
Clean, no lifting quilt with your head and hurting your back and coming home filthy, working 12, 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
It was great. So now I'm looking forward. I got a year and a half to go and I can retire. I get a pension from Goldman. I'll get my health benefits from Goldman.
So you said, what do you plan on doing?
Well, we'll keep the house down the beach because all the other kids are still there.
Yeah.
But I hate the cold weather. I hope to get out of New York for January, February, or March.
Okay.
Whether it's Florida, Arizona, or wherever.
Wherever, just somewhere.
And we'll use Tommy's house here for a base of operations.
Let's just put some
On the way down, we'll stay here, and on the way back, we can stay here.
That's good. That's good. That's good. When you look back over your life, what are some of the things that you learned most important?
Well, I learned, and I would probably have to say, we learned it from my mother and father, is love of the family.
Yeah.
That we're a unit. And I would really have to say I learned it from my mother and father.
Yeah.
Their house was always open.
Uh-huh.
And I used to say sometimes, what the hell's wrong with them? All these people coming in and out. But I can see your mother's house was the same way.
Right.
Joe's house is the same way. My house the same way. Floyd's. I'm sure that's where we learned it from.
Right.
And I'm sure you kids are the same way.
Oh, absolutely.
Patty and Tommy came down here. They stayed at Dennis's house.
Right.
There.
Right.
Where do they learn this from? Their
Right.
parents. And
Right.
where we learn it from our parents.
Right.
So I hope these little guys like Christopher learn it from Patty
Yeah.
and Tommy,
Yeah.
and Nikki learns it from Dennis and Marion.
Right.
And I'm sure they will.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anything else in the family is really important? Any other key things, philosophy in life that you may have?
I don't know. Right now, I don't know.
You don't know what, yeah? If you look back on life, is there anything you do different?
No, I don't think there
Yeah.
would be.
No. Okay. Good.
No. As tough as the quilting business was, it also taught you something.
Yeah.
It taught you that, we didn't live. We went away every summer. All right, we may have borrowed the $750 to go to Highland Lake, and we paid it off over the course of the
Right.
year. But we went away every year.
Right.
A lot of my friends did. Ardenn and Harry, they went away with us, and Floyd and Flossie went away.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of my friends, they didn't go away because they didn't have the money to do it, or
Yeah.
the junction or whatever it was. To even borrow the money and then have your wives skip a little every week to pay
Right.
it back.
Right. Right. Would you have any advice for your grandchildren? What would you have to tell them?
What would I tell my grandchildren?
They're kind of too young, I guess, to understand.
Yeah,
everything.
at this stage they're too young, but I would like to see them grow up outside of New York.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because progressively it's getting worse,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to get much, much worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the writing on the
Oh,
wall.
sure.
And all right, their fathers are working for the city, so Franklin left and went upstate.
Right.
But Diana's still there, and Jimmy is still there, but Jimmy lives down the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And Diane and Walter have a summer house down the beach, and I'm sure eventually they'll probably move down there until they retire.
Right.
But they'll
So
live
get out of New York is the advice.
I would say get out of New York,
Yeah.
because it's not a healthy place to stay.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap to live, so why
Why stay?
why stay?
Right. Doesn't make any sense.
All right, if you live in New York for nothing, then you put up with the bullshit.
Right.
But if you're paying top dollar, why stay?
Why stay? Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Any other words that you'd like to say in closing?
Well, other than I love my family and everyone in my family.
Good.
You know me.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a pain in the ass, but I love it.
You love it. You love it. Well, this is it, folks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Julie, thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. This is great.
Okay.
All right, wind it up. Let's go get some coffee.
And I don't want to see that.
You don't want to see this?
Yeah.
Well, we'll make copies, put it on CD sometime for everybody to see.
Well, I don't
How do
have
we
a
stop
CD.
this? That's true. Let's see now. All right. Stop. How do we stop it?
How do you stop it? You've been doing this how often?
No, I don't know. I just keep forgetting how to stop this thing.
Very good, George.